Today, I'm really excited to be sat here with Chiara, the founder and CEO of Plavio. Hi, Chiara. It's great to have you on. Thanks for being here. Could you start by telling us a bit about yourself and telling us about Plavio?
Hi, Amaan. Thanks for having me here. My name is Chiara Santevecchi, and I'm the founder of Plavio. Plavio turns boring compliance training into games that people actually complete faster.
Amazing. That's very topical and very useful because I remember when I was in my corporate job, I was always the last person to do the training and had to get email reminders to make sure I was finishing it. So I see the appeal of that sort of thing. So tell me, how does it work? Do you take existing material and then convert it to games, or do you actually produce the kind of material from scratch?
We are not in the content production space. There's plenty of opportunities nowadays, especially with AI. AI has really given us the luxury of being able to create content in a matter of minutes. So we don't want to compete in that space. What we do is we actually sit on top of existing infrastructure so that we are the engagement layer. We're filling that gap of how do we actually make training completed rather than how do we create the training.
So how do you go about taking that content and creating it into games?
So it is as simple as uploading a document onto Plavio. So say as for example that you are head of compliance or the HR or you are the onboarding head, the person responsible for onboarding new employees. Then you may have an employee handbook, or you may have a number of, PDFs, as for example, one with the GDPR policy, one with the data security policy, one with the code of conduct, a number of documents. What you do is you go on Plavio and you literally just upload, say, the GDPR policy on Plavio, and in a matter of 5 minutes or less, you actually see an escape room popping up. And that escape room has, like every escape room, they have missions, they have clues to discover. And you will be amazed to see that when you click on some of the clues, you actually see parts of your policy documents actually captured and turned into a scenario and turned into a question, turned into an investigation kind of game.
Makes sense. Sounds quite fun. Do you have some of the data behind it in terms of how gamifying this sort of thing firstly increases like completion rates, but also increases actually people remembering and learning what the purpose of the content was?
Yes, actually, yes. And we've been doing a lot of research before launching Plavio, but also we are capturing data now that we've got testers actually working on and testing the platforms. Historically, the research shows that in the average, 30 to 40% are completion rates for mandatory training, for compliance training, which is a really low number if you consider how key they are and what kind of economical and legal issues they can actually bring up for a company. With Plavio, it's actually 100%. Everybody that started or get a training assigned completes the training. There's not even a 90%, 95%, 85%, it's 100%. And the other big data that we've gathered is, again, based on research, each policy takes an average of at least 3 weeks to complete. And that is, I know it's really scary, but sometimes when you think about, it's only a 5 pages PDF document to read. Yes, but then imagine when you're on board and you actually have maybe 4 or 5 of these documents. They're all small prints, written down of things that you don't really memorize. You just scroll through, okay, I've done. And then maybe you have a trivia quiz to complete at the end. So what do? You actually scan through the document, the key words that will help you to answer that particular question, unless you already think, oh, I know this is quite easy, quite easy to guess. So you don't really memorize everything. You barely just research in order to complete the quiz. And it can take 1 week. It can take even months. I heard stories of employees just pushing it back until they actually have time for months. And HR is actually desperate for that. With us, every module, every game, so every training module gets completed in 15 minutes or under.
Amazing.
So there's a big difference.
Very big difference. I want to talk now about the growth journey of Plavio. Where are you in that journey? I think when we were speaking before, it's very new, that this business. So tell us about where you are at the moment with Plavio.
So Plavio has been a journey that started over a year ago now, because Plavio was previously called Team Camp. What we can do really well is we are really good at creating games. Team Camp was focused on games and engagement mechanics. We were working on games for team building. So we were still in the B2B space. We were still looking at that same audience. So we've learned a lot about the audience. We know the audience and our target audience inside out. Those engagement mechanics were working really well. We realized that we were pointing at the wrong budget line on the HR budget. And so we shifted from team building to compliance training, because we kept talking to HR, head of people, and they kept saying the biggest problem I have are actually completion rate for training. So out of many conversations, we kept hearing the same thing. So that's why Plavio is new, but our experience is not new at all. So about 2 months ago, we made the pivot from team building to compliance training. And we quickly pivoted. So we kept talking to the same people and new people. And that's how we are already being very successful in the testing of Plavio, because we were already talking to the audience. They were already warm leads. They were already telling us that issue, that pain point existed. So we needed to just go back to them or expand to new pieces of the audience. But it was a problem that was clear in front of us already.
Understood. What's now the plan moving forward in terms of growing beyond the warm leads that you already have there and actually expanding the client base? What channels, what strategies are you really looking at to help expand the business now?
So with Plavio, we're actually having very interesting conversation with potential partners. So it's not only going one-to-one to, directly to companies, which is something that we've been doing so far with Team Camp as well, but we actually raised a lot of interest among potential distribution partners in the HR space with the LMS, so with learning management systems, because they already have the content, they already have the distribution. What they're missing is a different engagement mechanic that actually is more successful than a simple video or slides and then quizzes, and then, documents, quizzes, or just read this and that's done, tick the box. So we are actually in conversation with several LMS to power up some of their modules with Plavio. And that's being really eye-opening for us.
Understood. So the partnership angle is going to play a key part. Are you still going to focus on the kind of direct to customer or direct to the business that you're trying to target? Is that still going to be a key channel for you, or is partnerships going to be where you're focusing on?
No, it will be a combination of the two. I believe at this stage, we need to keep the focus in terms of the value proposition. But in terms of tackling markets and different section of my audience, tackling different section of my audience, we need to be open to whoever gets more excited, whoever puts us in front of our audience. So it doesn't matter. One day I may be talking to a potential partner. Another day, I may be talking to other testers. We actually have a lot of testers right now on the platform, and we are about to start the integration with one LMS that wants to actually power up their offering with Plavio. So I think it's about keeping that open. What I know for sure is that we're going to stay in Europe, UK and Europe to start with, because that's our territory. That's a territory we know really well. So we are not going to expand beyond Europe for now. But yeah, it's going to be a mix of the two.
What do you think are the biggest constraints that you think you're going to face in terms of that new client acquisition and that growth motion that you're on right now?
So right now, like every early stage startup, especially in this particular moment in time, budget budget constraints on our side is the biggest problem. Or every early stage startups like Plavio, we have limited budget. We cannot spend, we don't have the luxury to spend a lot of money on outreach. So the outreach has to really be founder-led, has to be with me going and networking and bugging people on LinkedIn, on, asking for referral from everyone I know, or even the testers. Okay, do you know anybody else that could be interested? So it really is a lot of micro efforts. And then, I'm sure that you're going to ask me about, the growth stage, but that's what works at this stage. There's no cold calling, there's no cold emailing, there's no top of the funnel. It's like almost like you need to land at least, middle of the funnel immediately, which is a big problem because at this stage, no cold leads will really listen to you unless there's an intro there.
Final question, Chiara. It's been a pleasure hearing about Plavio and where you're going, and the growth journey is very, very exciting at this stage. If anyone is interested in finding out more about Plavio or in connecting with you, where can they go to find you?
So 100% go on plavio.ai, or you can look for me on LinkedIn. Just connect with me, write me a note so that I know where you're coming from, and I'll be happy to connect and have a chat.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Amaan.